Most of us don't lose connection because we lack time. We lose it because we lack presence. A conversation can look completely normal, but the moment a tiny flash of light appears from a phone, the mind drifts away from the person right in front of us and wanders to a place we never consciously chose. It's not because we are heartless, it's because we've allowed the phone to quietly decide how much attention we give. And then, at some point, we find ourselves asking, why do I hear but never really listen? The painful truth is this: a single, tiny detail is enough to sever the thread of connection between two people. But there is something beautiful hidden in the same place. One small action can bring that connection back. To see this clearly, we have to look at our focus from a completely different angle. We usually believe that focus is a matter of willpower. Try to listen more carefully. Just push the phone aside. But the surprising truth is very different. The mind is not loyal to willpower. It is loyal to the environment. As long as the phone is sitting on the table, the mind quietly assigns part of its attention to watching for notifications, even if the screen is dark, even if we never touch it. Distraction doesn't begin with action. It begins with the presence of the device in the space where we are trying to connect. That's why turning the phone face down is not just a polite gesture. It's a form of behavior design, a small way of shaping the environment to give control back to the mind. It reduces the visual signals that pull us away. It cuts the loop of check, expect, react that keeps running in the background of our brain. And it opens the door to real presence, something sheer willpower can rarely create on its own. One tiny action, but it returns almost all of your attention to the person sitting in front of you. From here, we can finally understand why our attention is so easily fractured. There is a truth most people never notice. The mind doesn't wait for a notification before it loses focus. It starts to drift the moment it expects that a notification might arrive. That thin, subtle sense of anticipation quietly occupies part of your mental bandwidth, and you're often unaware it's happening at all. Cal Newport, author of Deep Work, showed that simply having a phone present in the room significantly lowers our ability to concentrate. It doesn't need to vibrate. It doesn't need to light up. Its mere presence is enough to make attention leak away. In everyday life, you see this clearly. During a meal, a meeting, or a simple conversation, one brief flash of the screen is all it takes for the connection to snap. Words keep coming out, but the mind has already gone elsewhere. That's why the key tool in this chapter is very simple. Remove the noise signals. Take away as many visual and sound cues as possible that trigger the reflex to check your device. When those signals disappear, the brain naturally steps out of notification watch mode. The way to apply this is as simple as the principle behind it. Before you begin a conversation, turn your phone face down or place it out of sight. You don't have to strain to resist distraction. The mind will switch off its guard mode on its own, and your attention will return to where it truly belongs. And once the space is quieter, one more small action can completely change the state of the conversation. There are actions so small that they almost feel irrelevant, and yet they quietly transform the atmosphere, depth, and quality of a conversation. Turning the phone face down is one of those actions, small, silent, but powerful enough to shift the entire state. Simon Sinek once shared that he never puts his phone on the table when he meets someone, not just because of politeness, but because presence, when shown through action, speaks far louder than the words, "I'm listening to you." In daily life, you can feel this almost instantly. The moment you turn your phone face down, the other person receives a clear, wordless signal. I'm really here with you. No pressure, no performance, just a quiet gesture that helps both people open up more easily. The tool in this chapter is what we can call a presence lock, a small signal that locks you into a state of genuine presence. One simple action that helps your brain shift from watching for notifications to being fully with the person in front of you. The way to apply it is as light as a single breath. As soon as the conversation begins, turn your phone face down and treat that moment as a tiny ritual that opens the space for connection. A small action, but it sets the standard for everything that follows. Clearer, deeper, and more fully present. Once the state has shifted, a deeper level of presence naturally begins to appear. When we no longer have to spend mental energy watching the device, our attention returns almost immediately to the person in front of us. Presence only becomes complete when the background of the mind is no longer occupied. You see this very clearly in therapy. Therapists train the skill of deep listening, removing anything that interferes, so the person speaking feels seen, heard, and truly understood. It's not just a technique. It's a form of pure presence. In everyday life, once the phone is put away, we begin to hear things that don't live in the words themselves. A breath that drops, a tiny pause in the middle of a sentence, a fragile emotion at the very end. What we hear is no longer just the story being told, but the person inside that story. That's why the tool in this chapter is called full channel listening, opening your entire channel of attention to the person in front of you and allowing no stray signals to slip in. When that channel is fully open, the quality of connection rises in a way that cannot be faked. The practice is simple. When the conversation begins, look into the other person's eyes for the first 5 seconds. Just 5 seconds, but enough for the mind to lock its frequency onto the human being instead of the device. From that moment on, the conversation naturally unfolds with a different kind of depth. And within that depth, something else is quietly being built. A silent kind of respect. True respect does not live in the words, "I'm listening to you." It lives in the act of allowing the other person to be the center of the space you share. Respect is often silent, but it is never invisible. Oprah Winfrey once said something profound. The thing everyone wants most is to feel that they are heard, not just with the ears, but with the full presence of the person sitting across from them. In real life, this shows up very clearly. When someone tells you, "You're really good at listening," they are not praising your technique. They are describing a feeling, the feeling that you were truly there, and that their story mattered more than anything else in that moment. That's why the tool in this chapter is called the silent respect signal, a wordless but powerful gesture, turning the phone face down and putting it away. No declarations, no promises, just one small action that quietly says, "You matter to me right now." And the way to apply it is as simple as a personal rule. In every important conversation, the phone leaves the table for the first 10 minutes. Those 10 quiet minutes may feel small, but they can create a level of trust that many long speeches never reach. It was a small moment exactly like this that changed the way I see presence altogether. I still remember one very small moment, but it was enough to completely change the way I think about presence. That day, I was meeting an old friend I hadn't seen in years. When I sat down, I turned my phone face down without thinking. No plan, no intention, just a natural movement. A few minutes later, she paused in the middle of her story, looked at me, and said softly, "I don't know why, but today it feels like you're really listening." Only then did I realize I wasn't just hearing her words. I was hearing the spaces between them. I was hearing a sadness she hadn't named yet. And more than that, I was hearing myself inside the quiet that the conversation had created. One tiny action, turning the phone face down, gave me back a sense of connection I thought I had lost a long time ago. It was a feeling no piece of advice had ever managed to give me. Only true presence could do that. In the end, there is a soft but very sharp truth. Presence is not a gift we give to other people. It is a gift we give to ourselves. When we are fully here, we connect more deeply, we hear more clearly, and we see the world and ourselves with greater honesty. And if you want to go further on this path of focus and presence, the next video will explore how to redesign your environment so that your mind can remain calm enough, still enough, and clear enough for the things that truly matter.